I'm writing this months after everything settled into paperwork and silence. Not because I need sympathy. I need clarity. When I married Elena, we used to talk about the future like it was a shared project. College tours, retirement maps, numbers scribbled on the backs of envelopes. The account for our daughter's education was the one thing we never joked about. It wasn't just savings. It was proof that we were building something beyond ourselves. The shift didn't happen all at once. It arrived disguised as sophistication. Elena began using new language around money, liquidity, idle assets, opportunity, cost. She said we were too conservative, too sentimental. I told myself she was just thinking bigger. People evolve. Markets change. I didn't want to be the small-minded husband, clinging to a savings account, like it was sacred scripture. The day I logged into the account and saw the balance nearly emptied, I assumed it was a technical error. It wasn't. She explained it at the kitchen counter while scrolling through her phone. She didn't even sit down. "It's an investment," she said. "A down payment. It's not gone. It's repositioned." "With whose consent?" I asked. She sighed like I was asking about grocery brands. "Stop whining!" That money was just dead capital anyway. I'm doing what's best for my future. Her future. Not ours, not our daughter's, hers. I didn't shout. I didn't slam anything. The absence of noise felt heavier than anger would have. I asked one question. "Is this about him?" She didn't deny it. She reframed it. "It's about growth." The words themselves weren't cruel. The detachment was. That night I sat in my daughter's doorway while she slept. Her desk cluttered with scholarship brochures and practice SAT books. She believed that fund existed. She believed we had built a floor beneath her feet. I realized my conflict wasn't about betrayal between adults. It was about a broken promise to someone who had never been part of the argument. I had two options. Rage, which would confirm Elena's portrait of me as emotional and impractical, or restraint. I chose restraint. Over the next week, I gathered documents, statements, transfer records, the timing of withdrawals. I discovered the account was technically custodial but jointly managed. What she'd done wasn't criminal. It was strategic. She had moved the money into a property purchase structured through her name and her partner's business entity. It was clever. But clever isn't the same as protected. I scheduled a consultation without telling her. Then another. I didn't frame it as revenge. I framed it as risk mitigation. If the property was partly funded by assets designated for a minor's benefit, there were implications, fiduciary ones, tax ones, legal ones. The attorney didn't raise his voice. He didn't dramatize. He simply said, "This creates exposure." Exposure. That word landed differently than betrayal. I filed for formal separation a week later. Not impulsively, procedurally. Alongside it, I requested an accounting of diverted funds and petitioned the court to recognize the educational savings as misallocated custodial assets. When the notice arrived at the house, Elena read it standing in the foyer. "You're going nuclear over money?" she asked. "No," I said. "I'm protecting what wasn't yours to redefine." For the first time, she looked uncertain. Not afraid. Not ashamed. Just aware that the narrative had shifted beyond her control. The court hearing wasn't cinematic. No one gasped. No one lectured her. The judge asked clear questions. Where had the funds originated? For whose benefit were they historically designated? Why were they transferred without documented consent? Elena tried to explain the investment logic, appreciation forecasts, strategic leverage. The judge listened. Then he said something simple. Parental discretion does not nullify fiduciary responsibility. It wasn't dramatic. It was final. The ruling required the restoration of the misallocated amount through liquidation or refinancing of the purchased property. The asset she had framed as her stepping stone became the mechanism of repayment. There was no applause. No satisfaction rush. Just paperwork. Afterward, in the parking lot, she said, "You didn't have to humiliate me." "I didn't," I replied. "You did that when you decided she was overhead." We didn't yell. We didn't cry. Something thinner than love but thicker than resentment settled between us. Recognition, maybe, that we no longer shared the same moral architecture. The property was refinanced. The college fund was restored, minus fees, minus months of stability, but intact enough to mean something again. Our marriage did not survive the process. It dissolved gradually, like a contract reaching expiration. There were no dramatic exits, just schedules, mediation sessions, and a growing understanding that trust, once financialized, doesn't easily convert back into intimacy. I don't feel victorious. I feel steadier. My daughter doesn't know the details. She only knows the account statement looks the way it's supposed to. She still talks about campuses with that unguarded optimism. Sometimes I think about Elena's phrase, dead capital. I understand what she meant. Money sitting still can look inefficient, but not everything that waits is wasted. Some things are reserves, promises, safeguards against someone else's ambition. I didn't win anything. I enforced a boundary. And in doing so, I learned that being underestimated can be useful. Silence, when chosen carefully, isn't surrender. It's preparation. Elena wanted a future optimized for herself. She got one, just not anchored to the resources she assumed were hers to repurpose.